necessary. So that when we actually present data and say, this is what they're experiencing Soweto, and this is why people, you have a knowledge, the guys, they are best positioned. People who live in Soweto are best positioned to tell you what they're dealing with.
Our presenters, another round of applause. And, thank you so much. We have come actually to the end of this particular session. We will actually now go for lunch in the, I'm told actually in the hall that we have actually our tea. And we request that actually if we could come back, not
Tasting podium mic 1 2. Tasting podium mic 1 2 1 2.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Andre. Good afternoon once again, colleagues. We are about to start, and we hope actually that you had enjoyed the refreshments. And colleagues, you will have to assist me during this particular session. You know, this is the last session of our public colloquium, and we will have to actually we're trying actually to conclude by the set time on our program. So my presenters actually have told me that speakers, Ms. Yuri Ramkison, a climate and research analyst at the PCC, as well as Prof. George Ochieng. He's an HOD for civil and building engineering. We seldom hear the building part with regard to that. Speaker, if you are ready, we are ready. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Today about the role of research, technology, and so forth. I think it's important to note that climate research is essential. It's essential to any climate response. It forms climate action. It's important to remember that originally climate change, when it was identified as a global problem, there was a lot of skepticism research nationally, and the phenomenon of climate change. Climate research takes many forms, and it's really important to note it's not just about modeling and emissions and temperatures. Modeling emissions and temperatures is important. It's vitally important. But climate research and research into a just transition is much more than that. It's dynamic, it's multifaceted, and the approach is learning from peers, where you gain important lessons, which you then take into other scenarios. So for example, learnings today important in climate change research, because climate change is fundamentally a human rights issue. And I think people forget to include that human element in the research that they do in climate change. It includes public engagement, perception studies, consensus building, and more that are extremely important. I want to give you a quick example of the type of research that the PCC has done. 2 years ago, the President asked the Presidential Climate Change to do a study on how the decommissioning project in Komati in Mpumalanga was going. This is when Eskom had decided previously to decommission the plant in that area, and we went in to try and ascertain what the impact was on the ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, I don't just mean natural ecosystem, I mean from that process, because it wasn't just built, and there were interviews with other stakeholders in that area. The project was the first of its kind in South Africa, but there are many to follow. And what was essential about that project was that the lessons we learned there will now be applied to other coal-fired power plants across South Africa that will be decommissioned in time. Lessons included the sequencing of decommissioning, when you start engaging with community members, how you engage with community members, how you map your stakeholders, lessons on engagement and public awareness. So what kind of information the public requires, how they access that information, what form. When we engage with Eskom, which we are doing consistently, and other stakeholders in that area, we see that the lessons learned from Komati are being taken to Hendrina. The process that we use is similar to this, which is change our level of growth in terms of being a middle developed country, how we can respond to those crises, and the lessons of forums like this where we share the community perspectives. We also need, because they are vital lessons to be learned, not just locally, not just regionally, but globally as well. And we do engage in learning networks, which can rebuild, have an essential role to practices, thinks about the hotel sector for awareness. That's where it starts. So it was an extremely interesting project for me. So through a range
range of channels, including research, curriculum development, teaching, and importantly, critical analysis. Universities are constantly adding to the body of knowledge which is then trickled down into, and we are reading journal articles. So what you are going to produce, from your masters, we are going to read, and that is going to filter into our. It's also important to program like an adaptation program. We need to measure the impact. We can't just, roll out programs in a vacuum and not understand what we're getting back from those programs. We need to measure what that impact is. And we don't just measure for measurement's sake, we measure for course creates a feedback loop. And climate limits are surpassed. We're talking about 2 degrees. I'm not sure if 2 degrees is even on the table anymore. I think it's more. I think research institutions like this are going to be vitally important in teaching communities, municipalities, and the government how we adapt to climate change. And then I want to add another hotbeds of activism. We see in the US, across the UK, the encampments happening. And it's important to note that even climate change, there was lots of activism at university levels advocating for governments to take a stand because the youth know what they want. They understand. So it's not just numbers. There are many ways to collect research. You need to understand why you're doing it, but you also need to feed back into your research. And it's often best when you have recommendations which will help society build and grow. And higher education institutions are best placed to do this. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Yuri, with regard to the presentation. One thing that actually is important, is in terms of where science and society, mix, but also where the research that gets carried out has an impact. Always good at, to be honest, sake, but research that makes impact. I think it's what actually we're hearing, that is what actually is vital, but also is very, very important, for the just transition. The next actually presenter will also talk about developing the policy and research approaches to climate change is none other than George O'Shea, as I've introduced him earlier. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I think Ms. Yuri has alluded to a lot of things that probably I would have touched on, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. When you're developing policy and research, especially for this kind of activity, talking about climate change, we need, and this just takes me, Dr. Shafiq here deconstructed our mind. We almost felt like we had done nothing from morning until evening. He deconstructed our mind by asking a question, and the house went quiet. Whatever we had come up with, were they outcomes or were they outputs? And research related to climate change. You need to differentiate various terminologies and exactly what you want to do. And apart from deconstructing, he went further to give a pointer, give a positional pin to any institution that wants to have community-based scholarship of research. That is the Sol Plaatje University, which is working very closely with W. By that time, again, another direction. You need to know what you want. Assume there's nothing at the beginning. So we are working from a clean slate. You're talking about an open canvas. And you went ahead to say, fine, from this open canvas now you need to make up what you want to do. And that means that from an open canvas, for those who understand art, you are the artists, and therefore, as artists, you construct what you think or what comes up in your mind. And therefore, whether it is the perspective, you know, you understand perspective, for those who understand art, as when I see it from here. Developing a policy or anything research-oriented in terms of this, we need to have that canvas. Now, already have policies, action, or climate activities into the policy. So there is where we need to work from. And when you look at the framework, background, where we start from, so in the issues of the key policies, by the way, that human rights. So it is important, and looking at the most vulnerable people especially. So looking at research that focuses on the most only persons living in vulnerable settlements. I'm also talking of vulnerable areas of economy. Very research directed in those areas. And innovation. What are the our youth to embark on? Should part of what they were trained for initially, the transformation or the transition. So for us to be just, we need to look at new ways of looking at industrial development, economic diversification, and innovation. And we should also be careful when you're talking about innovation. What does innovation really entail? So we should be very clear to our youth, and we should also be very clear in our various research paradigms on innovation. Because currently, there's a little bit of a disconnect on we're doing teaching, learning, community engagement, and research as well. But we do not look at an early stage. At what point can it be developed further? It just go like that. They write, they go. But we should be cognizant of the fact that we should be able to pick this at an early stage so that there's that, we bridge that gap, because currently I think we're letting that go. So our education 5.0 is not playing its role the way it's supposed to. And finally, we'll also need to look at the social protection measures. That is part of what is there in the just transition. So I'm trying to bring at what we need to develop in terms of what are the key areas, but it must also talk to a document. In this case, it's
there you go. Thank you so much. So, you know, to really have actually a discussion and an engagement. That is that time now. Shall we then, if I say that is, okay, we'll take these two for now.
It's a point of clarification, actually. You Komati Port to concerns about to maintain. The second one, when we do the transition from the dirty sources of energy to the cleaner ones, some jobs will be lost for sure, who for some reason may not be suitable for retraining in the new environment, because not everybody can be retrained to fit into the new environment. The last one is about the ownership structures. What is being done about the ownership structures to avoid a situation whereby the new technology.
Thank you so much. Shafiq?
Yeah, maybe just a few comments, and I think we've had this discussion previously. For example, my interest is how VUT sees itself within this catchment, and then of course in the national picture and the global picture. Because to me, a university of technology is also the one that produces the tangible things that collaborate with industry and comes up with new processes and innovation. So my question is to tonight, you guys are going to pick out all your innovations in the demonstrators, pilots. where does the University of Technology sees itself? Is it trying to compete with the other, the universities? It's locating itself within the catchment and dealing, and I'm not saying doing everything what's happening in the catchment is what happens at a really local scale. So we spoke around how people experience it and what they do in terms of, I think we must be, it does not mean it makes my life better. The resilience was to me, and then the difference between, for example, and I was interested, the gentleman from the municipality is still here, is that, George, that says, you're struggling to get, the science system works well, and it has a, and those type of districts. Water in Fulani, all of a sudden I get to whatever thing sits behind a paywall. So we also making this knowledge that we're talking about inaccessible to someone but we also do not translate it because we do not have access to the municipality. So it's okay, but what do we see in Mfuleni? What can we learn? And it's interesting that you went to Cape Town. It's another it's another country, but your university is somewhere else, which is and I understand how the research process works. Don't get me wrong, but can she translate that and take this to the local tourism people here? So how do we translate? Someone asked that still baffles me, but so the first point of call is we should have knocked at the university, and it means there's a relationship issue that needs to be resolved. So maybe it needs to be between the university and the municipality that says, okay, tell me all the problems that we have. What do we already? The university things is that we talk to our peers. So in as much as we want, it's not and then have a bursary scheme with the university. They know what they need to deal with, and they can deal with it much faster. But because we're not, hey, let's put an RFQ and a tender. So I think just in terms of that translation of our research to our local proportion of the university strategies to meet the needs of the catchment in which they operate and live from. And what's the municipalities? I'm sitting in Pretoria. Now and again people ask me, what's happening in Fulani? Something that needs to happen. So someone asked, why are we just talking? We need. Maurice, I was not consulting, is that I also get the impression that we think that the PCC is going to do everything. And organized labor must see, okay, but what's my responsibility within this? We can't say I'm going to speak to my my members as an example. So it means we also need to understand it's not someone, it's not happening somewhere else. It's all of us that needs to conception that I picked up. PCC is an advisory body and things. What happens is that we've never said it's going to be taken. If we start to understand, then I can find myself in that solution. So maybe that's Chair. Thanks.
And from VUT.
Thanks very much, Program. That's what the executive mayor. Now I think we are on processes of to us that we must make facing out that so that we use the local institution. And moreover, we also agree as a municipality, we do give bursary on areas that the municipality lacks. We are able to fund those students and also make our institution available to higher institution in the region for whatever research that they want to do. I was just giving it clarity. My take is on, I'm not sure you have correctly said it's an advice, you know. In terms of the PCC, are we moving away from, why I'm asking that question, I think from last year, there is attempts higher area around, not far away from Vereeniging. It will be around from Roshni, if people they know Roshni, you know, Rastava. It's not a contradiction from the government. Unfortunately, the mayor was thrown in that big meeting of those stakeholders, and with the premier, mayor we can say maybe is on that station. Thank you.
Thank you very much. People, you said that you are based in Pretoria, and people will ask you about what is happening in the Val region. Such a way that municipality can know about us. One of the things that I've realized that as a researchers in VUT, we are not they never like it was in a visible as a VUT. That's why this was on a radio from someone from Cape Town. We are not visible, I think, that community, by the municipality, by anyone around Van. I think one of the comments when I was doing my PhD, I was in the project all the way to Western Cape, which means that VUT or anyone here, they haven't positioned themselves that also can see them as their solver of problems. I think as an university, we need to step up, and also as a researchers to step up so that we can be visible in a space. Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues. I hope I do not repeat what my commissioners, particularly Shakfik, has said. But I just want to clarify a few things that I think that would make us understand the work of the Commission better. And that's not work we can conclude today as a start. I don't think we'd come here 2 hours and explain to people what the Commission did since 2000 by the Commission as a start. So that, and I always say, what you have not won, and not win in the negotiating table. So you'd go to Mpumalanga, for example, you'd find a discussion like this. Of course, it's linked to the quality of roads, it's linked to the material, it's linked to the fact that the trucks are actually destroying the roads, you know. But you'd get into a discussion, an honest discussion with workers. Sakau comrades say, we have lost tourism jobs. NUMSA comrades says, we want to keep the coal jobs, you know. Because that dialogue is happening against the PCC or any other establishment and not broadly. Because municipal workers are not worried about the future of coal mines. They are worried about whether the guy that works in the electricity department would be able to work when the municipality does not sell electricity anymore. No. So the woman in Mpumalanga does not worry about the coal mine. She has been unemployed, she does not have electricity. And her son and her husband got asthma. So she's likely to fight with the work in a common understanding. This work is difficult, and no one gets nominated. Can you imagine what would happen? Well, and so you've got challenges of trust between government and institution with some credibility will fill in that space. And it will not happen. It's not likely to happen because the Commission just does not have that. But I think that I could say, yes, I close, Chair, without which, and I'm going to do a summary with doing that we've got to start saying that we've got challenges of communications and awareness. I always get worried when government, particularly local government, and I'm going to sit down because I'm a spin doctor. When local government asks us what is happening, they ask the Commission. You've got 2 mayors representing Salga, to the Commission. Each time Salga calls, we stop everything we do and listen to Salga. So we've got to also be honest in our engagements as social partners. What are our capacity challenges? I mean, I know workers lining, workers have lost jobs. I know the student movement is only worried about SRC elections and Congress, or the EFF student command, whoever. But I'm start moving as we come to solutions and say, who are their partners and what their roles are? You're asking 21 commissioners on part-time with lucrative jobs, some of them. So they are volunteers, most of them are in the process with a commitment to solve. So they don't represent anyone, represent their development interests. And I think that towards closure, we must start saying, what are the things that we commonly agree on that we can do together? The ones that we don't agree together will continue to go and ideologically differ them and get new mandates and find a common ground. I know the Commission was established in 2021. Committee was shut down and 3 years before the Commission. So if it was never opened, it would not even be an example of a bad transition. So I think that we must thank the reopening of Committee to go and test that don't repeat the same mistakes. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much. So that we allow our presenters.
No, so something I want to correct from the gentleman, saying that the mayor is in the Salga, pick up that. The question that I ask is, from the policy point of view, is the coal-fired power station still continuous or not? Because we have challenges here that there is a if they
very much from the developments around opening a coal mine around this area, and I know there's been issues around Letabo, but this area of quality in this, and I think the PRO of the air quality of this area, And that is the reason, I think, motivating factors that say we need discussions with yourselves, with the municipality, and the municipality against, but I hope it's against for how much this area. So, the document that we have before you, fossil fuels, energy, the evidence that we have would not support. Thank you.
To respond?
Were directed at commissioners and some comments. Clarification was Komati closed down, as Blessing said, the PCC was because of our Interley coal mines are running out of coal. They are in terms of jobs. So there's a feeling people who will be made unemployed. Afterwards, there's a process of repurposing. So they'll be repurposed for other jobs, local, regional, and international organizations, completely new projects where you have the opportunity to be skilled or re-skilled, DPs and so forth, where community members will have to, fit in to local plans, be absorbed. The Commission is also in favor of a basic income grant, not just for job losses, but for poverty elimination. Will obviously transition to, but there are also forms of socially for that. Because more and more government is in the limelight. There are guides to hold private companies accountable for, anything you're unhappy with. So fees, co-ops, and so forth.
I thought you'll say you don't have a response.
The second panel will not reach the second panel. Reason being, I think we need to have a change in our research policy. More, the DHET, unless otherwise, sections, even higher incentives mentioned about a university of choice, especially we are the only university of technology on this other side. We do not have a bigger competition. But we are so isolated and unknown to. And this somebody saw I was wearing a vest that, a jacket that was written there, VUT, and somebody asked me, where is VUT? I said, VUT, yeah. Then somebody, is it Venda University of Technology? Basically, no. So I tell somebody, no, it's in Firiniheng. They're more upset as the conversation themselves to be, because I don't think people even understand when they see that logo there. I don't think we've made that deliberate attempt to shout. Billboard, TUT, next to the airport, no VUT, or UJ. And when it comes to getting a deliberate attempt to go the innovative way. Thank you.
Outcomes of today's colloquium and the way forward. We thank our presenters very much. Thank you so much. We will then call upon our two speakers.
Thank for I not want to leave out anything. So anything that will be circulated, and would really appreciate some draft summaries, particularly on the action areas that we have got a recording, we'll read over the summary, but I will not, but I also, and SGs like cooking resolutions. So I can guarantee you, this one is it's a true reflection of the discussion. So it's not against any conference discussions. And briefly, colleagues, and I'll do that in a minute. And then with common understanding, we agree that climate will continue to be a need for improving energy security, social economic challenge to drive a common agenda. But we appreciate that there is low trust, low certainty, and there are very few areas of agreements. And but we believe that this complexity therefore calls for an inclusive and transparent approach. In terms of the discussions focus on the 4 themes: technology, but differentiated leadership were the broad areas covered. Under impact, disaster relief and response for communities, as well as in insurance. We concluded by agreeing that there are options for actions. We think that the broad area for action is collaboration in research. The second area for collaboration is communications, awareness, and community engagements and capacity building. The third area is actually a call to action. And we believe that this call action must focus, must emphasize that And then the third option for action is that the PCC and the VUT must expand its reach to include those that are not in the immediate university community, which is society. And in terms of those who believe that is not only, it was the issue of sustainable tourism framework, and would make sure that we've just add. He made a lot of, Professor Dube, thank you. And thank you very much, colleagues. We really appreciate your attention.
I don't want to add anything.
Someone has just donated their laptop, to VUT. Yeah. At least we do know that the former SG, used to cook resolution. Come to the end for our presentations. Dr. Beck, to actually the vote of thanks. Yeah.
Good afternoon, esteemed guests, speakers, and participants. On behalf of the World University of Technology, I extend a heartfelt gratitude to the colloquium held today. They play a crucial role and informing polite common goals and areas of interest, some of which include in mitigating together. We will be able to formalize part not have been possible to Professor Kehla Ndlovu, our Vice Chancellor and Principal, for his opening remarks. Also to Dr. Shafiq Adams. I would like to thank Dr. Esnalana for his support in arranging this event. He's our DVC, Research Innovation Commercialization Professor Christa Groller from the Faculty of Applied Sciences, and Professor Lazarus Maleu from the Faculty of Human Sciences. Also thank you to the key player in organizing this event, and then also Professor Dube for sharing his expertise, gathering of minds, bringing the Water Research Commission and the presidential participation have in change. I would like to approach us. Your presentations us to take meaningful action, and also the staff from the Research Directorate who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure the success of this event. Your dedication and hard work have been instrumental in creating a conducive environment for constructive dialogue and collaboration. As we conclude this gathering, let us carry collaboration, implementing sustainable practices, and advocating for policies that prioritize climate action. Once again, thank you all for your unwavering dedication to addressing the climate crisis. Together, I believe we can make a difference. Safe travel to all, and until we meet again. Thank you.